President Biden got himself into some hot water for saying that Vladimir Putin cannot remain in power. Did he make a mistake? Let's talk about it in today's video.
A dictator bent on rebuilding an empire will never erase a people's love for liberty. Brutality will never grind down their will to be free. Ukraine will never be a victory for Russia, for free people refused to live in a world of hopelessness and darkness. We will have a different future, a brighter future, rooted in democracy and principles, hope and light, of decency and dignity, of freedom and possibilities. For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power.
Hi, I'm Mike Greiner. I'm a lifelong Democratic activist who's concerned about the direction our country is taking. I'm also a lawyer and an academic, and I'm here to help you stand up to the BS of the MAGA crowd. So you just saw President Biden, that guy who's supposedly Sleepy Joe and can't put together a sentence, delivering a very powerful speech when aimed at reassuring our allies that the United States will not back away from its commitments in Europe, and encouraging NATO to stand firm against the aggression that the Russians are perpetrating upon the Ukrainian people. For a guy who allegedly can't put together a coherent sentence, he does pretty well speaking, doesn't he? But ever since President Biden made that comment, we've heard the concerns from the very serious people, as Paul Krugman calls them, who are concerned that somehow President Biden's statement will make Vladimir Putin less likely to come to a peaceful resolution of this crisis. And to that, I have three responses. The first one is, you're kidding yourselves. The only way Vladimir Putin will back down is for him to be firmly beaten on the battlefield. We just saw the other day where he claimed he was moving away troops from Kyiv and Kharkiv in an effort to show good faith for the negotiations between the Ukrainians and the Russians that are taking place in Turkey. Not surprisingly, President Biden was skeptical, as well he should be, because the very next day after Vladimir Putin made that announcement, he was back on the attack, bombing suburbs of the Ukrainian capital. The fact of the matter is, whenever he makes a statement, it's simply a way to try to improve his bargaining position. There's no legitimacy to the Russian government at this point. We're dealing with a dictatorial autocrat who does whatever he wants. And truthfully, the only way he will back down is to be firmly beaten on the battlefield or to be removed from office in Russia. People who somehow believe that there's some kind of negotiated settlement that will make him decide to back down are just kidding themselves. When I mentioned to my daughter earlier today, someone who went to high school for part of her high school career at a Ukrainian high school and so is very familiar with Ukrainian culture, her reaction when I told her that people were seeking a negotiated settlement to this crisis was that how can there be a settlement? The Ukrainians haven't done anything wrong. They just want to have back their country and for Russia to leave. Now, she's a bright young lady who does have some background working with Ukrainians, but clearly her reaction is right on the money. There's no negotiating with Vladimir Putin because there's only one thing he understands, and that's force. So anybody who thinks that somehow President Biden making this comment somehow makes a negotiated settlement less likely, well, it's time to wake up and smell the coffee on that point. My second reaction to this comment mirrored exactly what President Biden later said, which was all he did was express the moral outrage that everybody else in the world feels about this situation. I mean, this was a totally unprovoked invasion. And as soon as the Russians realized that they were going to have a little bit harder time taking over the country than they originally expected, they've taken to besieging cities filled with civilians and bombing them. I mean, who can forget the images from the women's hospital that was bombed, or the theater filled with children, or hearing about the people of Mariupol being essentially starved to death? If you aren't morally outraged about what's going on, well, there's something wrong with you. And that brings up my third reaction to this outrage over President Biden's comments, which is at the same time that President Biden is expressing moral outrage over these crimes that are being committed, you have the former guy actually asking Vladimir Putin to help him politically. Now, last I saw, he's actually in potential legal jeopardy over doing just that. I mean, in one sentence, he says there's no collusion between him and the Russians. The next sentence, he says that Vladimir Putin should help him get dirt on Hunter Biden. This is, by the way, the third election where Donald Trump has called on Vladimir Putin to help him out. So anyone who buys that line that there's no collusion, well, once again, you need to smell some coffee. What's more is it's actually kind of nice to have a president of the United States, after what we were dealing with the past 4 years, who has some morals, who doesn't think that white supremacists are very fine people, or that women need to be grabbed by the you-know-what, and who views Putin's massacring of citizens as something that everybody in the world should rise up against. I mean, I saw pictures of him sitting with American soldiers in Eastern Europe, and it was so great seeing a president of the United States acting like a normal person. Such a contrast from, again, what we're dealing with the past 4 years, with Donald Trump throwing the rolls of paper towels to the people who were suffering as a result of the hurricane in Puerto Rico. But even if we accept the idea that this was a gaffe, which I don't accept, anybody who defended Donald Trump over the past 4 years should sit down and shut up. You don't have a right to criticize this guy based upon supposed gaffes he may be making. I mean, Donald Trump invented a whole new word, coffeeve or coffeve, I don't even know how to pronounce that. But that's on top of Donald Trump doing things like claiming that he was named Michigan Man of the Year, something that doesn't even exist, and that Frederick Douglass, who died in 1895, is getting more and more recognized these days for his current work. Or how about claiming that in Florida you need a voter ID to buy cereal? Now, I can already hear some of his supporters saying, oh, those were just jokes, they didn't really harm anything. But how about when Donald Trump went on Fox Business and declared that a carrier group was steaming towards North Korea, a country which has nuclear-armed missiles, and which stands at the ready to attack our close ally South Korea. And he made this comment when, in fact, the carrier group was heading the opposite direction. Yeah, the truth of the matter is, his comments could have resulted in a nuclear catastrophe. So anyone who didn't criticize Donald Trump at these moments doesn't get to criticize Joe Biden. But that's even assuming that there's anything wrong with Biden's comments in the first place. Well, maybe you need a reminder of all the stupid things that Donald Trump said. And if so, check out this video over here I did a little while ago. I mean, it's hard to believe this guy was actually elected president of the United States. I'll see you then. In the meantime, let's hope for continued progress. Thank you.